What's up, Z-Meganeers? We've got a feeling that Disney is about to do something to one of their franchises that you'll probably want to ignore.
None of that ringing a bell.
On the silver screen, Disney is the undisputed king of quality control. But when it comes to Disney games, there have been a couple of times when characters from the happiest place on earth have experienced some pretty pitiful games that we only bought because of our love for the excellent movies they're from. So we've collected 10 of the most unfortunate Disney games. Some official games, some bootlegs, but all of them a different kind of stain on some of your most beloved characters. Today's video is brought to you by NordVPN. Use the link in the description and save 75% on a 3-year plan. Switch to NordVPN to protect yourself today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Here's our top 10 games Disney would like you to ignore. Oh no, the parade in the Magic Kingdom is about to begin, but the gate is closed and the keys inside the castle. Who put Goofy in charge of the keys? His friggin' name is Goofy. So it makes sense that the plot of Adventures in the Magic Kingdom is a bit goofy. Your character, who looks like he's wearing a generic Steve Irwin costume, has to find them by exploring the Magic Kingdom. Adventures in the Magic Kingdom contains 5 levels that represent 5 Disney World attractions, but the Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion levels are the only ones actually worth playing. The Autotopia level is a very simple and clunky top-down racer, and Thunder Mountain makes you ride your minecart to a predetermined station without much challenge. But the Space Mountain level is the most disappointing, as it's just a reflex game without any interesting visuals. The only thing that's not lackluster about the title is the music, which was composed by Yoko Shimomura, who also composed the music for legendary games Street Fighter II and Kingdom Hearts. Don't think that's bad? Don't worry, this list is gonna get a lot more embarrassing. You probably know the first Lion King game. Then came the Lion King 1.5 with Timon and Pumbaa. And after that, the Lion King 3, which is double 1.5, so that must mean it'd be twice as good. Except that it was a cheap bootleg that didn't add any quality, only a dose of bootleg. But the true king of the bootleg jungle was the Lion King 5, Timon and Pumbaa. It took the damage done by the Lion King 3 and added some morbid death scenes. The fact that it features kangaroos in Africa, dinosaurs, and makes you fight ghost hands all pales in comparison to the macabre game over screens. This game came from the developer that in 2003 released a game called Iraq War 2003 for the flippin' Sega Mega Drive, a console that was released in 1988. Turns out that war isn't the biggest horror. High School Musical is one of the biggest hits to have ever come from the Disney Channel. No wonder it spawned some games aimed at the tween audiences that like dancing, singing, high school drama, and supposedly don't mind if their games are completely mediocre. This game's predecessor, High School Musical Making the Cut, barely made the cut, and was almost as uninspired as the sequel. The only thing that these titles had to offer the fans was literally a title that contained the words high school and musical. The only difference between the first and second games is that Work This Out allows players to walk through a low-poly version of the town, Lava Springs. But that doesn't actually add anything to the rhythm game. Gameplay was the same as the Japanese rhythm game Otsu Tatakai Oendan, but with less interesting visuals and with rhythm challenges that were far too hard for the casual player. So why was High School Musical Work It Out made? You can work that out for yourself. Disney's Party is a game that moves into uncharted territory, offering its players new style of gameplay never before seen. Or it's just a Mario Party ripoff with Disney characters. Again, it seems like a Disney game aimed at a younger audience that doesn't really concern themselves with the quality of the games they get. Or parents that only buy games based on the title. Because why would anybody choose Disney Party over Mario Party, which already proved to be a bump in time? Compared to Mario Party, that was full of that Nintendo polish, Disney's Party offers less overall quality, and that put the Disney characters to shame a bit. Not to say it was a bad game, but it just scored significantly less on all categories compared to the game it was trying to copy. Probably not Disney's most glorious money grab. Bolt for the Nintendo DS was full of potential. Imagine a dog that's super quick, has a sonic bark, and laser vision like Superman. How did it end up on this list then? Handheld versions are not just lesser versions of console games. They pose an entirely different design challenge. Not only is it the smaller screen that limits what can be displayed, but there's also processor and control limitations to deal with. In the version of Bolt on DS, too many corners were cut in turning an otherwise middle-of-the-road console game into a subpar DS title. Controls are chunky, camera angles are infuriating, actual voice acting is absent, and the gameplay doesn't entertain like it did on consoles in the simplified form. The second Lion King game on this list, and this one isn't even a bootleg. Simba's Mighty Adventure came out in 2000 for the PlayStation and Game Boy Color. In a totally opposite scenario from the previous entry on this list, Bolt. This time it was the handheld version that was good, and the console version that was lacking soul. The console version of Simba's Mighty Adventure was an unimaginative game that was only bought by parents because Lion King was in the title. Controls are clunky, which is really bad in a game for kids, and the graphics were minimal, with bland textures and sometimes choppy animations. The only element that was visually impressive were the clips from the actual movie between levels. But of course, none of this negativity means that there were no kids that actually enjoyed this game. It's The Lion King after all. That's what we call Disney magic. Let's throw another bootleg into the mix that embarrasses Disney on a whole new level. You know 101 Dalmatians, right? Well, meet 101 Dalmatas. That's Spanish for, you probably get it. Twin Eagles, the makers of legendary bootleg games like Bananas in Pajamas and Sextras, also hacked their way into the 101 Dalmatians franchise. Horrible bootlegs like this bring us more joy than seeing an official terrible game. Because when corners are cut, they're lopped off with a chainsaw. Dalmatas was hacked on top of an already horrible game, Beethoven, the ultimate canine caper, badly. As you start up Cento Uno Dalmatas, within 4 seconds you're confronted with the first glitchy graphic, as the level name doesn't load correctly. But while you might think that's just a minor issue, the entire background of the first level is glitchy, as if the fabric of space and time was used to clean paintbrushes. Despite the glitchy graphics, most of what's horrible about this game is the fault of the original Beethoven game. Which makes this a good bootleg, right? Wreck-It Ralph was a great movie about great video games. Too bad that the video game based on a movie about great video games is really, really bad. This game has one good idea. There's 2 playable characters, Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-It Felix, and you can switch between the 2 to reach different game objectives. This adds variation to the gameplay, and maybe even different ways to complete the game. But the game tells you exactly when to switch characters, which means you just press a button at the designated spot, totally robbing players of the challenge of finding out for themselves what the best tactics are. Besides the one almost good feature, Wreck-It Ralph is bland to the bone. Animations are atrocious, and graphics on Wii look more like they belong on the Nintendo DS. We're just disappointed that this game about a movie about games got so little love. Mulan for PlayStation was a passable game based on a great movie. But ever heard of Mulan for Mega Drive? It was a bootleg that was released in 2000 and shared an engine with another bootleg gem, Pocket Monsters. Mulan follows the storyline of the movie surprisingly well, bar the fact that you use your sword to mow down unarmed characters that are your best friends in the movie. Besides Fratricide, the sword has another function. It allows you to float. For a bootleg, it's surprising that so few corners were cut, as it seems to be a largely original game, except that it takes assets from the licensed titles Aladdin, The Lion King, Dracula, and even some sounds from the Mega Drive game Toy Story. The music from the glorious intro? Yeah, that's from Aladdin too. Okay, maybe some corners were cut, but bootleg's gonna bootleg. Hannah Montana, the movie, the game, the failure. Remember the High School Musical game for Nintendo DS that was further up this list? Well, this is kind of exactly the same horrible game, but with Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana is all about the music, but the gameplay in Hannah Montana, the movie, revolves mostly around walking through the village of Crowley Corners running boring errands. The most action comes from the rhythm games you go through during the musical pieces. Hannah visits the different band members during her performance, prompting individual rhythm games for each instrument. But even with a perfect score, it seems completely offbeat. But it gets really weird when Hannah runs to the mic to start singing, while she could be heard singing all along. Bad games, worse lip syncing. But to all the Hannah Montana fans that loved this game when it came out, power to you. Let nobody yuck your yum. That's it for 10 games that somehow turned out to be deplorable under the mighty Disney umbrella. Do you agree? Or is the simple fact that a game has a Disney tie-in enough to make it desirable? Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and tell us in the comments what you think.